In this video, I'm going to share with you Rococo White, the new paint color, or one of the new paint colors in 2025 by Sloan and her world famous chalk paint. If you have not tried this paint, it is a must if you like to paint. And even if you don't like to paint, you might after you try this paint. Sloan invented chalk paint in 1990, and it's intended as furniture paint. She also has wax that you can purchase, many other products. Now she has wall paint, satin paint, clear coat finish. You can purchase her brushes, stencils. This color is so beautiful, this Rococo White. It's like in between a pink and a white. On her website, she says it is the softest white with a touch of Antoinette to give it just a hint of pink. It is a pretty neutral white that's the essence of Rococo, the romantic style of art, architecture, and decoration that began in France in the 1730s. Rococo style combined white and pastel colors with curves, gilding, and frescoes, and was pretty and gentle. She says it's reminiscent of the softest pink of the inside of a shell, delicate and pretty, and it comes from the French word rocaille, which was a method of decorating grottos and fountains using shells and pebbles. I started doing a lot of research, more in depth than what I know about Rococo and Baroque style in the 1700s, and I also looked at the King of France was Louis the 15th, and then the 16th was the last one before the French Revolution, and that was Marie Antoinette's husband. Also, these are brushes of mine that I've had for, I think, at least 15 years, and they're both by Sloan. This one's the wax brush, and it's for larger areas of furniture, and several others random chip brushes and stuff that I'll be using. The first two larger brushes are the ones that are by Sloan. So Rococo is very popular right now, and it is actually a very fascinating subject if you do some research on it. I did not know this, but Marie Antoinette had a grotto built by her husband, the king, and it says that no expenses were spared. And apparently it was very popular in that time. I don't know if they made it popular or I can't remember which one, but it kind of spread through Italy and Germany, Bavaria, and a few other places where they were all building these beautiful gardens and grottos. And the ceilings were lined with shells. They were very ornate and very interesting. And to this day, there's like a few restaurants. One is in Italy, one's in Thailand. I can't remember the other ones, but they're a restaurant inside of a cave, like on the ocean side, and they're pretty neat looking. So what I read was King Louis the 15th had his chief mistress, Madame de Pompadour, that hairstyle was named after her, the Pompadour. She had some huge influence on the Rococo style. Now, on these upcycles that I'm doing, I'm starting with the Rococo chalk paint. And the nice thing about the chalk paint is that you can thin it out with water or you can let it thicken. And it's really beautiful because it adds a lot of texture when it gets thick and you can see heavy brush strokes. And that's part of what makes it so intriguing and beautiful to work with. So I started with the chalk paint, and then I'm adding adhesive size and some imitation gold leaf. I like to use a soft little fan brush to help me apply the imitation gold leaf to my projects. Of course, you could wear gloves for this step of the process so you don't get oils from your hands on it. However, I don't mind and I like to just use my hands because for one, it's imitation gold leaf, and for another, I'm going for a bit of a distressed finish anyways. Also, when you apply your adhesive size before you apply your gold leafing, you want to let the adhesive dry completely and then add your adhesive. And that's why I'm working on all three projects and doing the steps together and not separately. So everything can kind of dry in between coats. I just rotate between the three projects. This is the Annie Sloan Clear Wax, and this is also a favorite product. I really don't think I feel like there's nothing else on the market like it. I know there are other furniture waxes and things like that, but this for me is just not comparable to anything else. It's soft, it applies easily, it spreads really well, and it richens the color. You don't have to use it, but it's nice because it gives sort of a seal to your project. So let's say if you chalk paint something and you don't seal it and you accidentally drip water on it, you may have like a water stain. But this is wax, so it would repel that. And any kind of touching it and soiling it with your fingers or anything like that, it could also repel. But more than that, it adds a really nice finish. And you can apply it and let it dry and leave it, or you can come back and after you've applied it, you can let it cure for a day even. I typically tend to not want to wait. And you can buff it to a sheen finish, which is really fantastic on furniture pieces. On these projects that you're seeing, I am not buffing it. I'm actually going to leave it sort of just the matte finish as you apply it, because I'm going for an aged distressed look, but I would buff it on furniture. I'm also using a little bit of gilding wax. This is the Rub and Buff in the color Gold Leaf. And I'm using just a random paintbrush. It's sort of, I can't even describe it. It's like a pouncing stencil miniature brush, sort of. I'm sure there's a proper name. I went around about twice, 2 coats of the gilding wax after I applied clear wax. And I applied the clear wax you can see on like the medallion piece over the chalk paint part, and then I applied clear wax over the gold leafing imitation. And that's because I don't want the brush to pick up any of the gold leafing and transfer it to the other part, like little bits throughout. Wouldn't be a big deal on a distressed piece. However, that's my tip there. Now, after I applied the clear wax, you want to always put clear wax first, typically on a project. And I am actually using this Rub and Buff gilding wax on top of that. And I'm sort of randomly placing it on this angel statue candle holder. more or less on the highlighted areas. So you can see there's some shell motifs and some scrolling patterns. And I'm also applying it next to where I placed imitation gold leaf. And what I'm going for here is sort of a dimensional look. And I'm trying to make this statue aged in a sort of a way. Of course, it looked beautiful before as the dark color. However, it's not an antique, it's a replica, or just a newer piece, I should say. It's not even a replica of anything. But it's not wood, it's made of a resin, as well as the candle holder is. And the medallion black piece, if you will, is metal. After that, I used the gold gilding wax. I am going to use some Sloan dark wax to add some distressed aging to the pieces. This can is an older can, so the marking is different on it. It's actually, I want to say it's like 15 years old, but it's like, it works like new. Anyhow, I am sort of stippling on some brown wax. And the reason for this is I did some research on old Baroque and Rococo furniture. And you can find these on cherish.com or Sotheby's. And I found that a lot of the furniture pieces had a stippling on them. Now, also Rococo period style, there you can find candle holders and vases. And they're more of an enameled or porcelain, I should say, finish. However, I wanted to do this stippling similar to that which was used on some furniture. And this is just my interpretation of a concept of what they would do. And this is just to give you an example and show you how you can be creative using your chalk paints and things like gilding wax and imitation gold leafing to create beautiful upcycled projects. After I have applied dark wax and gold gilding wax, I am then going to go back in with the chalk paint. And I'm just stippling the brush into the paint. I'm not drenching it. And it's almost like dry brushing it on, but I want to put it on the highlighted portions of the ornamental piece where you can see the detail. And the reason for this is to make it look less of a muddy appearance that I have done with the waxes. And it's because I just want that to be in the crevices to show an age distressing, sort of like dirt almost in there. And just age and wear. And I'm going back over with the chalk paint to brighten the piece up. And after I highlight this, well, I'm only doing this highlighting on the candle holder with angels. And after I reapply another bit of chalk paint, I'm going to do a finish on this one with the clear wax after the chalk paint dries. And I really appreciate you if you stuck around and watched the whole video and listened to me talk about this paint, and I recommend you try it. Thank you for watching.